Hi, hello, namaskara. In today's conversation, we're going to be having an interesting conversation with a youngster who's working towards the equitable mobility and inclusive mobility, which is going to be a social initiative to bring about an impactful change in the society. Let's welcome Dr. Prajwal Nagesh. Hi, Prajwal. Welcome to the Core Corner. Thanks
Yeah.
for your time, first of all, amidst all your busy schedule of this extensive research work that you're doing on this equitable mobility program and taking time for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on the show.
So, ಇವಾಗ to begin with, equitable mobility ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣನೇ it becomes like a very complicated and a complex terminology for any layman to understand. So, we'll begin with what is equitable mobility for us to understand as laymen.
Sure. That's a wonderful question to begin with, actually.
Yeah.
Um, I come from a project called Equitable Mobility. So this is a three-country project. There's Netherlands, Bangladesh, and India. So within that, I am heading the Bangalore team with my colleague. So here, when we talk about equitable mobility, what we're trying to say is that when somebody comes to the city, does everybody have opportunities to travel from point A to point B that they wish to go? Um, so, do they have the resources? Do they have the opportunities? Are they able to do it as much as they like to do it?
Correct.
And this we see across different sections of the society. It could be social categories, it could be economic categories, it could also be physical abilities. So, when you're looking at all these different sections of the society, what we're trying to see is, do all of them have equitable opportunity to move from point A to point B? So that is the whole point of equitable mobility.
So, Prajwal, if we have to really understand about what your research is all about, when you said that you are working as a three-nation collaboration
Yeah.
with Bangladesh, India, and Netherlands. Actually, what is happening in that collaborative effort? What is it that you know that we can understand from what you're planning to do?
Yeah. So, like you rightly said, it's a collaboration of research institutes and universities in these three different countries. So we have a principal investigator, Professor Ajay Bailey, who is in Netherlands, who's leading the entire project. So in terms of training, in terms of conceptualization of the project, and also in terms of funding, from the Dutch Research Council is one of the primary funders, and Utrect University. So those resources, infrastructure, and guidance and research support comes from the Netherlands. And then we are having India and Bangladesh as two field sites. And the reason being, I think there are different stages of urban transport development. For example, Dhaka it just got its metro, like
Oh,
I think
yeah.
a couple of months back. And then we have Delhi here, which has been having it for quite a long time.
Correct.
But there are also many issues which are parallel to both these countries. It could be the congestion, it could be lower um, lower resources in terms of tackling them. Um, so there is a lot more that these cities can learn from each other. The Delhi, Kolkata, Bangalore, and Dhaka. So we thought it's a good way to even cross compare and also learn from each other. What's working in Dhaka? Maybe is there a best practice that we can suggest to people in Bangalore?
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
so that's where India and Bangladesh comes into the picture, and it's a whole team actually. It's a fabulous
So
interdisciplinary
basically,
team.
Netherlands is helping both
Yes,
countries improve on this model.
research on
Yes.
this
Okay.
aspect.
So when you say, equitable, ಅನ್ನೋದೇನೇ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ it's a big word for everybody to understand. So when you say equitable, what are the layers that you are actually targeting amongst all these three, categories that you just now explained?
So when we talk about equity, so basically we say it's a principle of justice.
Correct.
So are we doing justice? For example, if there is an older person who's working in a factory, okay, are we doing justice for that particular person? Probably to travel in the metro.
Okay.
So the cost that he would he or she would have to pay to travel in the metro, is it doing justice to their livelihoods? So
Okay.
that is the way we're trying to position equity, and we're trying to look at it from four different lens, or maybe we can say four approaches. It's called 4A's. So 4A's stands for accessibility. If somebody goes to a bus stop, can they get onto the bus? That is access, the design of it. So next comes availability of it. If somebody goes and stands on the road, do they have footpaths to walk?
Correct.
Is it available? That's the availability part of it. And the third is affordability. So yes, there is accessibility, there is availability. I go to the station, but is it affordable for me to get onto that?
Correct.
And the fourth A is acceptability. So now I get onto this mode of transport. Do people on the transport, the co-passengers or the transport personnel, do they accept me to be a co-traveler? For example,
Is
sometimes,
that an issue also, actually?
I mean, if you're traveling by bus, getting a seat is an issue for an older adult. So if an older adult is driving on the street, there is always this confrontations that takes place. If there is a younger one who's driving faster, and then they're
Correct.
like, "Why are you even on the street?" We have seen this many.
Which is not the case in other countries, I guess, because when we have seen and seen people, in different countries, I think there, even beyond 60 years, people work without being made to feel guilty. And the allied, all other benefits are also extended to them. Yeah, actually, there is a valid point here.
True. That's very much seen in our research as well.
Yeah,
Many of them have to work even beyond traditional retirement age.
correct.
It's a livelihood issue,
Correct.
especially in the global south, in South Asian countries and our cities, more so in Bangalore.
ಯಾ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಎಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಈಗ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೊರಗಡೆನೂ ಹೊಟ್ಟೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಲ್ಲ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ embarrassing also sometimes for elderly parents to ask for their financial support. So I think if they can cater to the requirement of an organization, maybe yes, they should be considered, given that opportunity to work. I have seen so many people who can really function very well even beyond 60, and which is why they take them as consultants in many organizations, Allah. But
Totally agree on that, because we had this one entire paper dedicated to this entire labor after the age of 60. It's like for many of them, it's not even a choice that they would have to work until the day they can't work, because our pension system is so weak. Like for example, if
correct.
there is a someone living in a low income settlement in Bangalore, their pension is around 1,000 rupees per month. So if they even have to sustain themselves, they would have to go to work. That is where again transport comes into picture. If they can't go out of the neighborhood itself, then their work opportunities shrinks rapidly.
Correct. So what does Equitable Mobility as a company do to support such category of people, especially the elder adults and also the ones who have to undertake this kind of a transport, urban transport? So I think that's the specialization that you are into, Allah.
Yes. So the entire project of equitable mobility, so we look at it from different lens in different cities. For example, in Delhi, we look at women and their transport. The same in Kolkata. In Bangalore, we're looking at aging as a lens. And then in Dhaka, we're looking at persons with disabilities and also aging. So if I can talk about from my experience of Bangalore,
Yes.
so what we're trying to do is bring back this conversation that cities are built for everyone,
Correct.
and more so for different age groups. So that is where we bring the concept of age-friendly cities, age-friendly transport. Okay, so is it age-friendly? Can we send our 5-year-old kid to go on a bus on their own? Or can we send our 70-year-old mother to go in a metro? So these are the questions we're trying to bring back to the
Hmm.
discussion of both research and policy.
Policymakers.
How do we do that? Is we use qualitative methods.
Hmm.
Basically, that is, we go
Hmm.
and co-travel with most of the older adults. We
Oh,
travel with them.
okay.
So it could be anywhere, to any part of the city. So
Oh,
we also live with them sometimes. For
hmm.
example, I lived with some of the older adults in a low income settlement in Bangalore to understand their life in depth, what it is.
Seriously.
Yes, because
Wow.
for example,
Interesting.
we ask a question for them: do you have a vehicle? They say no.
Hmm.
That's not the end of the story. We need to understand what house do they live in, what is their family relations, is there somebody who's helping them to move about, how is their neighborhood, are there street lights, are the neighbors helpful, is there any communities helping them out.
Hmm.
You need to understand the entire world that they're living in.
Correct.
To do that, we need to experience as much as possible. So we are trying to bring this rich evidence
This is
to the
so
policy table.
interesting. Actually, uh, I was thinking, when you have to actually undertake this research, you need to involve them first as the stakeholders, the elderly adults, they are the ones. But you're taking it one step ahead of, you having to go and then live with them and also understand. This is like, a two-way project, I think. And good, yeah. I'm very
True.
impressed.
Thank you. I think it requires a lot more effort, I think, because we all come with our own privileges.
Yeah.
And these privileges kind of make us a bit more blind towards the vulnerabilities of everyday life in a city. We think like city, everything is going well, there's economic development, there's
Exactly.
growth.
Exactly.
But it's only when we start living with them and experiencing their everyday challenges. So that's when we understand there are also harsh realities that we need to kind of keep into picture.
ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಹೌದು ಇವಾಗ ನೆನೆಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಹೋದರೆ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಇನ್ ದ 60s or 70s or even 80s, I think so. Bangalore had wide roads. Bangalore was very safe for even every adult to just step out and then go do their own activities on their own and then come back home safely. But ಈಗ ಹೊರಗೆ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಇಡ್ತಿದ್ದಂಗೆ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ನಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಅ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ ಫುಟ್ಪಾತ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಫ್ ದನ್ ಅಡಲ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಟು ದ ಬಸ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಅಗೇನ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಸಮ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅದು ಅಷ್ಟು ದೂರ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಊಬರು ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಆರ್ ದೇ ರಿಯಲಿ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಲಿ? ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಒನ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಗೆಟ್ ಟು ದ ಬಸ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಅಗೇನ್ ಆ ಬಸ್ಗಳದ್ದು ಇದು ಕೂಡ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೋ
Right.
ಹೈ. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಆಲ್ ದೀಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್, does all these things also fall under the considerations for making it comfortable for them to travel?
Yes, absolutely. I think you packed it quite
ಅಲ್ಲ,
well.
ನಂಗೆ ನೆನೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಹಾಗೇನೆ ಅನಿಸ್ತು. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಟಾಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದ ರಿಯಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್ socially, economically, physically, what are the
True.
barriers that adults face? If
Yeah. So, for example, if you're looking at physically, I mean, with aging, it's imperative that there are certain physiological changes that take place. Maybe it could be the eyesight, because of which maybe we might not be able to travel early in the morning or late in the evening. So then that part is gone. That's We're not able to travel then. And then there is peak hours in Bangalore. It's quite famous. It's like, so then if they're avoiding the peak hours, that why travel around 9 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the evening? Then that's taken away. Then what you're left with only is that non-peak afternoon. And nowadays you see the harsh summers that we are experiencing, the global climate change. So then they would have to brave themselves to go out in the heat to travel and access the city. It's a very small time frame that's available. So this is one way physical abilities come in. The second way is again driving. We call it as driving cessation, or basically just stopping driving. Somebody who was able to drive their Bajaj Chetak for like 30 years, and there's one day that they can't ride that scooter anymore. We need to understand the kind of psychological
Fear.
fear, and also that not being able to do something that you cherish so much.
Correct. Okay.
So then they're dependent more on other modes of transport where they're not driving or riding. That is, it could be auto, it could be buses. So because of this physical ability which shrinks, their their options for mobility also shrinks. So
Sad, actually.
sad, yeah, that's the sad reality as well sometimes. That's the physical aspect of it. Economic, we've been talking about that as well. If they're dependent on, for example, the private cabs or the public transport, so then the first and last mile connectivity becomes an issue to get onto a public transport. So then they would have to spend on the private auto rickshaws or cabs to get to the public transport. And then when you bundle all of them together, and when we know that they're really not getting the pension as well, so then it's not even an option to get onto these modes of transport.
And also, technology could be another thing,
True.
Allah. Not everybody must be, really ಸ್ಮಾರ್ಟ್ ಇನಫ್ ಟು ಯೂಸ್. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಇವಾಗ ಬಂದಿರೋದು. ಈ ಫೋನಲ್ಲಿ ಓಲಾ ಆರ್ ಊಬರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಡೂ has come only recently now, and then they need to be taught also as to how you do it and all that.
That's a very important point actually, because we keep seeing technology coming into our research quite often. So the fundamental
flip side of it, is it?
Both
It's
sides of
both
it
sides,
actually.
yeah.
It's, for example, if there is a if the children are living abroad and the parents are living in Bangalore, they can still kind of order something for their parents, or maybe book one of these cabs for them, staying like miles away. On the flip side of it, the question is, are we designing interfaces for all age groups? For example, if there's an older adult, if they open up one of these mobility apps, is the font size visible for them? Is there an option for them to increase that? Very simple thing. Is there a more lighter version of this app for them to download? We had this one instance where there was a older woman who wanted to travel to Ashok Nagar, and she happened to book an auto rickshaw for that. Supposedly there are multiple Ashok Nagar. So then they actually ended up going to a different place. They felt lost, and then they were asked to get down from the place, from the auto rickshaw. So these are the everyday practical challenges that again comes up to the technology providers.
Correct.
So who's in my mind when I'm designing this app? It's not just a 30-year-old IT engineer who's using this app.
Correct. What are your missions and vision, for your company that you are planning to work for this category of people?
Yeah. So one is, if you're looking at the cities of South Asia, there is lack of evidence itself, lack of data itself to understand if our cities have inclusive mobility or not, or like all the issues that we spoke about. Do we have enough data about it? So that is the first question that we're trying to answer.
Correct.
So we're trying to generate that that very rich amount of data,
Statistics.
statistics. So it could be also in terms of the narratives.
Correct. Okay.
In each of these cities, so that when we have this rich evidence, so then it becomes more reasonable to build policies on top of this evidence. Otherwise, if you're trying to come up with a transport policy, it's in vacuum. So we are just assuming that this is what people want. This is what women of Bangalore want, or this is what a person with disability in Delhi wants. So policies should not be built on assumptions. It has to be built on solid evidence. So that is one of the mission of the project itself, to bring that evidence to the table. And second is this collaboration. So we're trying to link these different sections of society. One, there are common people. there who are struggling each day to go from point A to point B. And then there is policymakers. And then there is non-governmental organizations who are interested in working on these issues. So, and then there is government, which is planning all of these. So we're trying to kind of build a solid network so that information kind of flows across all of these different channels.
So, when you actually do a research with all these stakeholders, how do you think, each one of them can contribute? Let's begin from the basics of the elderly people themselves.
True.
Then, probably the community
Yeah.
as a whole. So, what have they actually, you must have done quite a bit of research by this time, Allah. So, what are their common problems that they generally face ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರದು?
Maybe I could give an example, basically
Yeah.
how all of them came together to work on it.
Yeah.
So we have this initiative within Equimob project called Bengalurina Bassina Kategalu.
Oh, super. Huh.
So it's a bilingual, English and Kannada. It's a catalog of untold stories of bus users in Bangalore, among which older adults are also one group. So now we needed somebody to go on the ground, collect the evidence, data, stories for us. Because we have a research organization, Institute for Social and Economic Change. We can provide the research training. We needed somebody to go on the ground. So then we had another NGO called Samvada, who work with very talented youngsters from studying government colleges. So they came on board. So they're like, we are willing to have students for internship. So then we had a paid internship. We trained them. So they traveled on the buses with different parts of Bangalore, with different sections of commuters. They captured their stories. And then there was another NGO called Bengaluru Bus Prayanikara Vedike.
Super.
It's a very nice forum. It's been
ಗೊತ್ತೇ
around.
ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ.
So they've been around for quite some time. Yeah, so they have their ears on the ground. They understand the entire bus system of Bangalore.
Hats off to you youngsters, yeah. You're doing such a brilliant job.
So Bus Prayanikara Vedike came on board. So they guided us in terms of what routes have to be covered. For example, there is some farmer who's growing flowers in Hesarghatta who travels by bus by BMTC to Bangalore. If they were not there, we wouldn't understand there is somebody like this who's traveling.
Correct.
So they pointed it out. These are the stories that we need to capture. So then we covered those stories as well. So then all of them came together and collected these untold stories. And today we have that product almost ready and due for a launch. So we might release at the end of the year. So this is one example of how there's common people there.
They can contribute
They can contribute
this research work.
And their NGOs. They're all coming together. And at some point of time, the policymakers are also interested in such products.
Real stories when taken to the government is when
Yes.
they'll also be able to understand what is the real problem actually ಅಲ್ವಾ. ನಾವು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರೀ ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಸೆಡ್ IT-BT ಸೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ನ ಅದನ್ನು ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಅದೇ ಯಂಗ್ ಕಮ್ಯೂಟರ್ಸ್ನೇನೆ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್ keeping these people in mind and then ignoring the people below this 10 years or and then beyond 60 years. Yeah.
Why that becomes important is we are not going to be a young nation always. The younger group that we are talking about today, they're all going to age in like 2-3 decades.
Correct.
They might be the larger proportion of the population in a couple of years. Then are our cities and transportation built for them?
So, now you have a research work that you have undertaken with the stakeholders, which began with the elderly adults themselves and community as a whole, and then the NGO coming into the picture. And now, when you have to take this to the government, what are the challenges that you actually face I mean, do you really have any such challenges, or are they welcome to listening to all these things to implement these changes that you want to bring to the table?
So, yes, I think there are a lot of like-minded policymakers who are also there, who are very much enthusiastic of the research data when we share it with them.
Today, I see that difference. I don't know if I really understood politics so much back then, but then today at least we see that, there are a lot of people who are actually involving even the people from the appropriate government agencies to be sitting on the table while they make the policies, which is a brilliant thing to do, Allah, because they know what is that, that they need. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂಚೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಎಂಟರ್ಟೈನೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, but today they're considering even the IAS officers and officers from the different sectors like IPS, IFS and the IRS, whatever. All of them are involved in this kind of a policy making, which makes it a lot more easier and also achievable, is what I feel, Allah.
True. Absolutely. There is that positive approach
Yeah.
that we can see that as well. And then two is also that it's also that we need to understand that the state capacity is also there's finite sense of resources. Okay. So then what we also need to kind of propose is, where is the money coming from? And from so what are the benefits of probably implementing these measures? So probably sometimes when these measures are implemented, the intended consequences might not be immediate. It probably it could happen like 5 years down the line.
Have you had any such examples of something that was adapted through your research that you have given to the policymakers and they have implemented it and it has shown some kind of a positive and a meaningful impact to the community? And adenana idea, something that you can share with us?
Yeah. I think we can say it with humility, because there's also a lot more other voices out there. So one of the things we were always pushing for is affordable public transport. With Prayanikara Vedike as well, that these public modes are public service.
Yeah.
That it's by the taxpayers. It has to be accessible and affordable to them. So one of them was again to try and implement fare-free transport. Okay, so
yes.
we can see that happening now. That
Yes.
there is the Shakti Yojana, and then there
Yes.
is at least one section of the population is getting this affordable transport.
Correct.
So we can see that, but we can't say it's only our voice which kind of led there. Ours was one of the voices
Correct.
in the community which pushed for affordable public transport.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನದು accepting that they should also have that kind of grant specifically to be used for this purpose, than get into that debatable issue of you're not providing infrastructure with that taxpayer's money to the taxpayer, whereas the same amount is being used for giving it to somebody else, FOC. So at one though, I think if they can actually alter even that, then it'll be such a perfect thing to be extended to the public. Is my opinion. I don't know. I mean, that's again that's again what I feel. It's not
Yeah, it's a good conversation to have, actually. To begin with, the thing is, the assumption is about the taxpayers itself. Like
it's become very debatable, like
very debatable. Yes. One is definitely this direct tax, the income tax that we pay, and then there is indirect taxes, which again we pay, the GST and other taxes.
ಸೊ ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನನಗನ್ಸಿದ್ದು ಅದೇ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಪೇಯರ್ ಮನಿನಲ್ಲೇ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ದ ರೈಟ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ರೋಡ್ಸ್, ಓಕೆ ಇವಾಗ ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಎಲ್ಡರ್ಲಿ ಅಡಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ, ಮೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ so beautiful and then mobility friendly, so that a person at any time, like you said, can think of going for a walk or going out for a work. ಒಂದು ಫುಟ್ಪಾತ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಇವಾಗ. ಆಮೇಲಿಂದ ಮತ್ತೆ ರೋಡಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಥರ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಂಪ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಬಂಪ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ ಪಡಲ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ the same thing, again you can use it for the same purpose, to make it user friendly for any age group to just get out of the house to be able to do their activity without having to think about 101 things that comes as a hindrance to them. Ala?
True. Maybe if you ask me, I'm like, why not both?
Why not both?
Why not both?
Yes.
Like, because these are different aspects of the same mobility. For example,
Why they get the big badges? Only because they're concentrating upon, doing something good to another person while ignoring the other thing, which is also equally important, actually.
yeah,
Alva?
yeah,
If adunu madi, idunu madidre, nobody will say no. I mean, government obviously has, a lot of funds, I'm sure, because Bangalore, I think, gives the maximum revenue through the taxes.
if we take these two examples itself, we also see that there is underinvestment. Definitely, there's a
Ha.
massive underinvestment. If you're looking at the number of buses, like
Huh.
probably in 2012 or something, if I'm right, we had around 6,000 buses.
Huh.
Today in 2024, and we are almost around same 6,000 buses.
Ayyo. Huh.
And look, like what has happened to the population? It has massively expanded. Um, the city is no more small. We
Correct.
have so many villages which are coming to the city now,
Correct.
and we have only 6,000 buses. So there we haven't invested more buses over there. Bangalore has one of the lowest per capita bus for the population across the country, I can say.
ಹೌದಾ?
I think it's around 0.5, that is half a bus for 1,000 population. If there are 1,000 people in Bangalore,
My
we only have
God.
half a bus for them. That's what it looks like. On the other hand, we're talking about pedestrianization.
Hmm.
We have a paper coming out on that. In Bangalore, 50% of the streets have absolutely no footpaths.
Correct.
There's zero footpaths. And then the other 50%, what we have, we know how the footpaths are. It's either narrow, it's there are like humps and so many other things there. So on both fronts, we are really lacking in terms of both resources and also the will to kind of set it right.
Correct. Actually, that should be the top priority because everybody asks for that now. Today, you ask anybody, what do you want? Antandre, the first thing they say is, good roads because you step out, either your car is damaged or the person is damaged. Yadal onantu kandita.
Yeah,
So I think high time, they really invest in that, and you're only concentrating about, building bigger and bigger infrastructures, not making a road a friendly zone. So that is.
absolutely.
So what do you have to say about all these metros which have come into the picture, Prajwal?
No, that's a very important topic in our entire research as well.
Yeah.
So on one hand, metro is at the center of our the dream of a city. Like every city in Bangalore is aspiring to have a metro. So now, again, if I bring back the same question, does it cater to all walks of the society? Only when it caters to everyone, then the whole purpose of building a metro is fulfilled. Right? That's what our policies also aim for. We could see many older adults who'd get onto these metro stations were extremely fearful. One is the
Yake?
new technologies, the elevators, the escalators, especially something when it's vertical. So then the imbalance kind of comes in.
I thought that was useful as against the steps because most
True.
often, ವಯಸ್ಸಾದವರಿಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ heart problem ಇರುತ್ತೆ and it becomes a lot easier to go by the escalator ಅಲ್ವಾ?
Absolutely. So one is availability of it. ಅದು ಇರುತ್ತೆ and then they can use it. The second is how much have we acclimatized them to these infrastructures? For example, there was somebody whom we were talking to who stays like 3 kilometers away from a metro station, who was extremely impoverished, living in almost a low income settlement. So we asked, why don't you use a metro? She's like, I don't understand metro. How do I take a ticket in the metro? There is automatic doors. She doesn't understand how does it work. But she's more confident in getting onto a BMTC bus.
Okay.
She's always been there because it's the confidence that comes because of they're acclimatized to that. So one of the things that has worked well in other places is that they used to take these metro coaches to these low income settlements and leave it as a demo so that people can try it out in their familiar setting. Okay, they take the entire coach, they keep it in closer
Where
to.
did this happen?
Um, I don't remember the exact city per se. Probably in one of the Latin American cities. So they kept it there for a week, I guess. So they understood what the ticketing system is, how the automatic door works, how the elevator works. So they understood that. And then when you bring them to the station, then it becomes easier for them to navigate the space. That's one. Second is again affordability. Okay, because we can see the shift when we had the buses. You always had these passes. There is senior citizen pass in a bus, which is also
Ilva?
there's nothing like that in metro.
Oh my God! I wish somebody hears this out and then really considers.
And
Yeah.
both opposites of the spectrum. You can also ask about student passes, college going or school going student passes. You can see a lot of them students traveling in buses with their bags on. They say uncle student pass is there.
Correct.
But you don't see the same in the metro
Arey,
systems.
what a valid point, man. Honestly.
So it's like both the younger generation and the older generation, the kind of incentives they had in buses, we don't see the same in the metro. And both of them are run by the state.
Okay, it's a valid point, honestly. So this is why they don't actually travel by metro, mostly.
Yeah, they can't actually. Even if they want, they all aspire. They all want metro systems to be there. They would want someday to travel in it.
But when you say buses anta heldaga, what changes would you expect? That can really make it user friendly for elderly adults.
Yeah.
Yakandre buses ide. But again, if I have to make my mother travel by a bus, I have something in my mind. I'll see, if that's the same thing that, you can also think of. Is there anything specifically that you feel, needs some kind of a modification for these elderly adults to travel by bus?
Yes. I think two things on top of my mind. One is the design of the bus itself. Like if there's someone wearing a sari who's really old with knee pain, if they want to get onto the bus, the first step itself is a huge barrier.
This is exactly what I was thinking, because mother always says that she can't even get onto a car which is of a higher height. So ಇವಾಗ ಯುರೋಪಿಯನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಅನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್, ಐಮ್ ಶೋರ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್, ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಬಸ್ಸಸ್ ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಆ ಫುಟ್ಪಾತ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ಲಿಗೆನೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಫಾರ್ ಎನಿಬಡಿ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ಆನ್ ಟು ಇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಹತ್ತಿ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು. ಅದು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಹತ್ತಿದಾಗ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಸಮ್ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಮೇ ಲೂಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಯಾ, ಸೊ
that's absolutely right. So that is one, the design aspect is one thing that the buses can definitely learn, probably from metro actually. Like how age-friendly those designs are. So can they get onto the bus? Can they sit more comfortably? Are there enough seats for them? So that is inside the bus. Then we talk about the most important is the bus stop. Okay. So there are many places where the bus stops, but there is no bus stop.
Oh.
Okay, there's literally not even a shelter there. We could see that in many places we are doing the research. And now the climate change is a real problem.
Correct.
Either there's harsh sun or there is
rain.
Unexpected rain. In both these situations, where are they going to stand?
Correct.
And when there is no bus stop, it's all the more difficult. And then the second aspect is dependability. If I know that the bus is going to come in 10 minutes, I'm happy to wait for 10 minutes.
Oh, this is such a beautiful arrangement if somebody really can work on this, Allah.
Yes.
Yes, go on. Yeah.
So that dependability, I think, because we see that in the metros.
Correct.
That the metro is going to arrive in 7 minutes, it's going to arrive in 7 minutes.
So it's the case with buses even in the European countries where we travel. I mean, there is a table which keeps, announcing, okay, another 7 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, so that, correct, or at least you're prepared that, you can promise the person whom you're going to meet that, okay, this much time he's going to take for me to travel and I'll be there. Illi.
That's one thing. I think we have few signages in a couple of bus stops, but we need to have it in every neighborhood at least. Every bus stop.
That is what is equitable mobility all about, ಅಲ್ಲ? ಕೆಲವರಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡೋದು, ಕೆಲವರಿಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ.
I mean, it's not just MG Road, it's not just Church Street, right? Like Bangalore is huge, and there are many places where really hardworking people are staying. So those bus stops are also as important as a bus stop on MG Road.
Equitable mobility ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ for everybody, I just want you to explain also about, in a very simple layman language, what do you mean by equitable?
Okay. For example, there's a rich person who, maybe we can say, they get around 3 lakh rupees as the salary per month. Okay, and they would have to pay 100 rupees to get on a public transport. So it's a very small chunk of their entire 3 lakh rupees. Um, that 100 rupees. It's a very small proportion. And if you're going to charge the same 100 rupees to somebody who's earning or getting 1,000 rupees pension, it's not equitable. So then what we say is, we take a proportion of it. If you are charging 1% to the rich person, then charge almost 1% to them as well. I hope I didn't confuse you more.
No, I didn't. I did understand. But how? I mean, with this kind of a population, I was only thinking, how practical is it to just get to that kind of a calculation? Because there could be some kind of a manipulation also, Allah. I mean, I was just thinking, how practical is it to arrive at that kind of a
Yes.
fee for this class and another class?
That's a fabulous question. That's one thing that many of the policymakers are always brainstorming. So that is where it becomes important what person comes to your mind when you're making a policy. Okay, like if you're trying to decide the bus fare or the metro fare, then who is coming into your mind? If it's the lowest rung of the society, if you're pitching it for them, I'm sure it's going to be equitable for every other group. If you can pitch it for both across gender, if you imagine somebody from very low income neighborhood, from socially marginalized groups, the religious minorities, like for all of them, if they are in your mind, and if you're deciding your transport decisions for them, it's going to be equitable for everybody else. That's one way of looking at it.
ಯಾ ಐ ಮೀನ್ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಎಷ್ಟು ಇವ್ರುಗಳು ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ವ ಅದು ಮಾಡಿ, ಬಟ್ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ದೇ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದೇ ಅರೈವ್ ಅಟ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಸಿವ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕಾಂಕ್ರೀಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಈಸಿ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ವಿ ಸಿಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ವಾ ಅಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ವಾ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ. I think so much goes into even policy making.
If I could give one example, because we always went with assumptions. That's one thing I like about research. It breaks those assumptions. Like I went to this one neighborhood where I was staying. So I thought, give them good transportation, give them all the facilities, they would be happy. That's what we believe in. But then what they pointed out was, don't bring any metro station close to a neighborhood. So this was their response. So the reason is that all of them have occupancy right and not the land right. Okay, they can occupy that place. If there is a metro station or a better road on those places, then the real estate prices goes up. So they would be evicted from that place, and they would be pushed to the periphery. So they're like, even if there is no transport, we'll struggle somehow go to the main road and catch a bus than that coming in. So here, it's not just transport with probably housing rights. This is how complex it is that we would have to think.
See, namige, like you said, lot of us who have that kind of a, touch wood, by the grace of God, a comfortable life may not really think so deeply. But people, if they are complaining, they are much smarter than us. I mean, they're thinking in so many layers. What could affect them with introduction of what highest level of technology or facilities that you give. They are smart, actually.
Smart.
Honestly, Allah.
Yes. So that is what we're trying to focus. Like when you're making policies,
they're aware of their rights also, probably, Allah.
Yeah.
I mean, much better than what we do.
that's what we got to do more. Like listen to them. I think just hear them out.
How important is it to complain?
Very much, very much. It's,
Yeah.
um, otherwise,
How can we be heard? Alva? Correct. I
yes,
mean,
if
crybaby.
there is a finite sense of resource, you
Mm,
want something. If it's not given to you, you have
mm.
to complain and then
Be heard.
be heard, negotiate, and then bargain for it. That that's what all social movements are.
So it's okay if we really, voice our opinions in public about, what we require from our point of view. I
We
mean,
should.
not seen as stupid.
No, absolutely not. I think you'll be seen as very responsible. Uh, and for that to happen, one crucial element is local body elections.
Hmm.
Okay, so as local as the decision making gets,
Hmm.
the more opportunities there are for people to complain, voice,
Just
negotiate.
elaborate, Prajwal, on that.
For example, BPMP.
Hmm.
Okay, if there are, I mean, if you know or not, it's been 4 to 5 years since we have had a BBMP election. It
My
was
God.
due 4 years back.
Oh my God.
The
Huh.
election was due 4 years back, and there's no election being done for the last 5 years.
Hmm.
Bangalore being a massive world-class city, I mean,
Hmm.
in all its thing, does not have a local administrative body in power. That means for the last 5 years, people didn't have an opportunity to
What's
vote,
their
to
opinion?
voice their opinion, and the city goes on as if nothing happened.
ಯಾಕೆ ಹಂಗೆ
That's a
ಆಗಿಲ್ಲನಾ?
difficult question. Yeah,
Allah, but
but
is it
that's a
not
reality.
compulsory or anything like that? That it should have happened, and then aren't they, held responsible for not conducting what they're supposed to conduct to have an administration which leads the city?
It should. One way is, like I said, if we as people are aware, then we complain, then we hold them accountable, then they would hold the elections. So we have seen that
Okay.
if BBMP was there and if the local transport was in their hands, and if you could vote on these transport issues, so then you have an opportunity to voice your opinions. That's one way.
So many layers to, it's not as easy as we think that, we can just provide with that kind of
True.
facility to everybody. Allene kutkondo. So many people involved in it, so many stakeholders, so many sittings, and so many understandings. Oh my God, this is quite complex actually. And where do you see it going? I mean, do you see any ray of hope that Bangaloreans can see in the next 5 years at least? Where with better infrastructure, especially when it comes to mobility thing.
Yes, I think you can see a lot of hope in terms of the organizations which have been working on
Mm.
urban transport.
Mm.
There have been a lot of very interesting non-governmental organizations over
Mm-hmm.
there. And the very passionate bureaucrats
Mm-hmm.
who are looking at more equitable urban transport systems. And we come in as a third entrant. Like there's a lot more research and data and evidence that is being generated in terms of what the lived travel experiences are on an everyday basis. So when we have these stories coming out, when we have these discussions happening, um, when things are getting a bit more noticed, definitely at some point of time, the solutions are going to come.
Is city actually ready to undertake those kind of implementations that have been recommended through your research papers?
It is, and
Is it ready?
it is happening. It is happening as well, and it's a slow process. It's a journey
Yeah,
as well. Sometimes,
because the influx of people from all parts of India into Bangalore that I see now is
yeah.
so high, and then the population is rising so high as against the infrastructure developments that we want to actually cater to that kind of residential population here.
Yeah.
ಸೊ ಇದು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಬೆಳೀತಿರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸಿಟಿ ರೆಡಿ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದನ್ನು ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆರ್ ಟು ವರ್ಕ್ ಫಾರ್ ಬೆಟರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್
Yeah.
ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ಸ್?
Yes, yes and no at the same time. Yes is because there are a lot more opportunities that we can see in terms of how you can forecast and foresee those challenges and how you can build towards it. Um, and one way is not always probably getting a new solution itself. It could also lie in resisting something that should not be done. Like for example, if there is a project which is not equitable, which is probably causing more harm to the
Some
city's
example
transport.
of it.
For example, there was steel flyover which was
Hmm.
planned, and there's a massive protest on the streets that took place that it should not be done. When you're building tunnels and flyovers, you're just displacing congestion. Like the traffic
ikkade
jam is not happening here; it's happening somewhere else. Okay, just put the same money in public transport, right? Like you have 6,000 buses, just add another 10,000 more from the same budget. Right? So the first step is how do you resist such the not equitable investments? When we do that, that itself is a success. And then comes how do you channel those resources that was saved there to what you believe is equitable? That is, at least bring more public transport, bring more pedestrian infrastructure. I mean, we need really good footpaths. Like as a city,
Exactly.
you just need, it's a basic
I'm
necessity.
absolutely not motivated at all to step out for this one
Yeah,
reason, because when you get out, you don't know if you'll come back safe or injured with your leg. So ವಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ 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 ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಬಟ್ ಒಂದು ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಲೊಕ್ಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಅ ಪಾರ್ಕ್. ಬಟ್ ಅಗೇನ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಸೆಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ತನಕ ಹೋಗೋಷ್ಟ್ರೊಳಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದರೆ.
correct. And this is not exclusively for Bangalore also. The same
maybe.
issues which are being repeated in other cities. Like I come from Mysore, my native. I can foresee what's going to happen to Mysore.
Oh my God. Don't tell me.
I hope not. But if you're learning something, then we need to have more transport systems for walking, for cycling, for public transport.
Correct.
I mean, Mysore does not need a metro. Okay.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ನಡಿಬೇಕು, ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನಡಿಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲ ನಾ ಬೇರೆ ಊರಿಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಯು ಗೋ ಟು UK ಆರ್ ಸಮ್ ಅದರ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸಸ್, ನಡಿಬೇಕು, ನಡಿತೀವಿ ಕೂಡ. ವೆನ್ ವಿ ಗೋ ದೇರ್ ವಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ವಾಕ್. ಬಟ್ ವೈ ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ನಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನಿಂಗ್ ಹಿಯರ್? ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಲೈಸ್ ಇನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಟ್ರೈಂಗ್ ಟು ಸೇ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ಯೂಸರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್, ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಸೆಡ್, ಫ್ರಮ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ A to ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ B ಹೋಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕ್ಲೀನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿಟಿನ ಫಾರ್ ಇಟ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಸೇಫ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರ್ for all kinds of people, all walks of people. So do you mean to say, sorry, I interrupted you again. You were talking about Mysore.
Mysore, yeah. So I think if you're learning something from Bangalore, then we need to fix those things already in Mysore. Like if we can see that there are a lot more people going to come into the city, then are we building really good public infrastructure
Are we
there?
ready, first of all, Alva, to cater to everybody's requirement of everybody wanting to come here because of good weather, good opportunities? ಅದಕ್ಕೆಂತ building ಮೇಲೆ building, offices ಮೇಲೆ offices. Are we really ready?
Absolutely. And then also we need to have definitely more cities, I guess. I think Bangalore at some point of time, I sometimes don't know if it's one city or multiple cities put together. Like if you look, it's as big as any European country for that matter, and we call it a city. So it's a huge place, and it's a lot of population to be provided service for. At some point of time, we need to think: do we we definitely need more cities, which can take the load away from
Correct.
Bangalore, like.
Correct. Actually, somewhere that's when I think again your point of resistance, that voicing your resistance has to come, and that has to happen only in groups and then in big chunk of communities. ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ಓಕೆ 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 ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಿರೋ ಕೊನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ನಮ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಗೋನ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಅವೇ, ಬಟ್ ದೆನ್ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಜನರೇಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಗೋನ್ ಟು ರಿಯಲಿ ಸಫರ್ ವಿತ್ scarcity for everything. Not just scarcity for money ಒಂದೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, scarcity for infrastructure, scarcity for basic requirements of even water, electricity, everything. So somewhere thus far no further, another I think somebody should listen to this, and then and we all should voice our opinion, I think.
True. We should.
So, Prajwal, being so young and being so empathetic to understand all strata of people, what motivates you to be in this field as opposed to so many people, who are just thinking about building their own lives, building their own career, building their own homes? I think, materialistically investing in, upping their plan A to plan B. What motivates you to be in this field, to be able to serve the public? I mean, I really think, it is a service that you're actually rendering.
I think see it more as a duty, I guess, because when we are part of a society, when we see different sections of social groups, economic groups there, um, somewhere feel like their stories are important, especially because we all came to Bangalore with a lot of hope. Everyone comes. If you stand in Majestic, like they all get on with a bundle of dreams and hopes. I see with all of them. And then when we start thinking, have those dreams and hopes realized? Um, and when it's not happening, so there's also pain there. Um, so with this research, what you're trying to do is like get to know those hardcore challenges, those barriers. I think their stories of resistance, perseverance is something that keeps us going actually. Um, so the many such stories that comes. For example, there's one older woman who lost both her husband and son on the same day for a traffic accident. She stays alone, and then she would have to travel to the grave because that's where she finds peace, which is not even a kilometer away. And she has no vehicle, she has nobody to help her, and then she has to walk all the way, crossing the main highway to get to the grave, sit there, clean it up, and have some peace. When you see those stories, it's the kind of challenges that they face because of lack of these very basic elements of transport infrastructure that they're entitled for because of the taxes they pay. So these are the stories that kind of makes us that it's our duty to, one is to document them, two is to voice it out for them, and three is that make policies and research keep them in mind when we are telling stories or when you're making decisions or when you're building cities. I think that's where I think the motivation comes from.
Touched, actually. I wish, every student, I mean, yes, you're really young and, you've been thinking of it in a very big way. And for the category of people who probably you haven't even encountered as much in just this little years of your age, which everybody gets inspired listening to you, and then everybody works towards it, even if it means in the smallest way possible, to have that kind of empathy. Ashtidre no half job done. Allah, I
Absolutely.
mean, I really wish that every youngster who is listening to this and then watching this will get inspired to join hands with all such organizations to be able to contribute even 1% amidst the whatever activity or whatever thing that they're doing, if they can really be a provider for the betterment of all strata of people, this place would be such a lovely place to live in. Allah.
Absolutely. I agree on all counts.
To wind up the whole session, if we have to know about the developments of whatever mobility programs that you're taking up, inclusive mobility or equitable mobility, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿಯಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನಿಂದ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ, how would anybody know, where is it heading to? Because, now I'd be keen to know, how would they know? I mean,
Yeah. So one is our project website. It's constantly updated.
yeah.
So probably we can link it in the show notes.
And also,
the
if
URL.
somebody wants to join hands with you, are
Yes.
you welcome to, allow people to
Yes.
come and join hands with you to work in your projects in whatever way they can, as volunteers or, as NGOs?
Absolutely. I mean, we are also inclusive, so we are happy to welcome anyone who's interested in this. So we have our the email ID, equimobproject@gmail.com. So we can link it in the show notes as well. So they can
Yes.
always write to us. If there's any organizations, if there are any individuals who are interested in that. So other research organizations, anyone for if they have an idea to pitch, because we are planning to have this one more year where we're trying to have these collaborations and make the research data what we have more accessible to the common people and more accessible to the policymakers as well. So in this 1 year, we're trying to actually build these networks, and I hope we're going to have more such people coming up, and we would love to kind of work with them on this.
So good. Absolutely. Why not? Everybody would want to and then love to, work with a person and an organization which is actually going to make an impactful change in the society. So thank you for your time. Thanks so much for making us understand the basics, from the basics to how complex this issue is, and then how beautiful you guys have dedicated your time, energy, expertise into it to make this place a beautiful place to live in. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, I guess.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure talking to you too. Such a youngster, but then so much to learn.